It's a hard one between the hot heat humidity or the freezing cold rain of humidity. They both were terrible. It's hot mostly all the time. I mostly wore my short sleeve shirts. But if you do get called to the north, it can be rainy and cold. So I would say bring mostly short sleeve shirts and then a raincoat and a few sweaters, which would do you fine if you were called to the north area. In Spain, there's like nothing. I don't even think that I saw a spider once in my apartment, out on the streets. I didn't see like any wildlife except for when I went to the zoo and they had like a million bears. That was weird to me that they had like 50 bears in a cage, but there's like not a lot of bugs, insects, wildlife at all. Kind of a funny, crazy experience was one time while serving in Barcelona, there was just a heavy rainstorm and it just hit hard. I mean, it rained hard for a good while and the streets were just flooding and um, everyone was hiding down in the subway stations and in their houses and under bus stops. And so after the rain had kind of stopped, my companion and I started walking down the street again and we just saw water flying out of a door. And we're like, that's weird. And so we walked up to the door and we found that it was a young Chinese lady who had her apartment underneath the level of the street. And so the water had just been pouring into her apartment and it was probably like that deep. And so we asked her, like, hey, can we help you in any way? Her son is hiding up on the stairs and she's got a bucket just throwing water out. And so my companion and I, we took our shoes off, rolled our pants up, took our socks off and headed into the apartment and started throwing out buckets of water, sweeping it out, just doing whatever we could to get the water out. It was a pretty funny experience. So, man, you learn a lot on your mission. The one thing that I learned from my mission specifically, we talk a lot about obedience and the importance of obedience and how obedience brings blessings. So, and that applies so much after missionary life as well, to continue faithful and keeping the commandments and doing those things that I need to do, but especially as a missionary, obedience is so key, and I can promise you that it truly does bring so many blessings to you while you're in the mission, both to you and missionary success and blessings to your family and friends that are back home. The mission, it's hard but great. You come to just love the hard work that you have to do. I think probably the hardest thing would be having to walk around all day sweating and getting rejected by people. Um, Rejection at the beginning of my mission was something that was hard to face. Thinking about what you had left behind to come and help these people, and here they are rejecting you. But you'll come to find that you'll come to love those people, even though they might not be interested in the gospel at that time. The little seed that you are able to plant with the few words that you do get across to them will come to mean a whole lot to you. But it is hard at first to face rejection, but don't let it stop you. I had a really cool experience in my last area while in the island of Ibiza. There was a couple from Ecuador that had shown up to church one Sunday. Um, just randomly, they walked into the building, and we were just a little branch out there of maybe 15 to 25 members. And this couple walked in, and they just came and sat in the back, and we asked members if they knew him or not, and nobody knew him, and so we ended up going over and talking to him and asking them if they happened to be members from Ecuador, and they said they didn't. They said that that was their first week on the island and that they were simply looking for a church to go to, and they so happened to walk into our church. And to make the story short, we ended up teaching them and having some really spiritual and special experiences, and they ended up being baptized. And the coolest thing about it was that we found out that one of their daughters, who was back living in Ecuador, had also been baptized by missionaries there, and so we were able to begin the process of making them an eternal family. Again, while in the island of Ibiza, there was a little old Spanish lady that we had found in our. There was a little old Spanish lady that we had found in our area book as we were going through past investigators, and so we ended up passing by her house and knocking on her door, and she was very sweet and happy and excited to let us into her home. She was a single woman. Her husband had passed away, and so the rule of having two missionaries in a home with a single woman, you have to have the door open. And so about 2 or 3 times a week we would pass by her house, and she would have the door wide open, and she did not care one bit what her neighbor said. And she would tell us, she'd say, the neighbors, they laugh at me for having you two young American men come into my house, and I sit here with the door open and talk to you, but I like the feeling I have when you guys are here. And she would, since she was older, she was very deep in the Catholic religion, and all of her life had been done through the Catholic religion. We were able to sit there and trade back and forth ideas and stories of life. I ended up being transferred. Well, I finished my mission and I went home. But my companion that next week was able to Skype me for her baptism. And it was one of the most joyful experiences of having been away from the mission but still a part of it, to see that she had made it through her doubts and fears and made the choice to be baptized.